Christmas tree is up the day after Thanksgiving. So, welcome to Dash and Cars Daily Dash episode. I guess it's 23 now. 23 days straight of uploading videos. And we're down to the final week, guys. We're 1 week away from the wedding. 1 week away from 1 week away from ending the daily vlog. And it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. It's been exciting now that I'm getting to where I'm actually working on the wagon every day. It's getting a lot done. It's getting closer and closer to being ready to go drive. It's been a lot of fun. And thank you guys for sticking along with me and coming along with the journey of these last few days before the wedding. And it's been good. I don't mind doing daily stuff, and I wouldn't mind eventually picking this back up when everything settles down and it gets back to where I have a project that'll take a month or something like that. I can start doing daily stuff again. But it's good to know that I can do it. It's good to know that I know what to do and how to set it up. And I'm excited. So this has been a good experiment so far, and it's been a good learning experience. So let's do some wagon stuff. So for today's episode, I'm going to work on this corner like I said the other day. I had some suggestions in the comments about what's causing the bind. And it makes perfect sense when I think about it, because the dust shield on the back of this, if you don't get it quite lined up right, or it sits in there crooked, whenever you crank down the axle nut to the dust shield, it'll actually cause the axle to bind. And that's what's happening. Whenever I crank down a little bit of pressure on that axle nut, all of a sudden I can't free turn this at all anymore. It's out of gear, there's nothing holding it. But usually you should be able to rock it a little bit and even get it to turn, but I can't do that. So what I want to do is I want to pull that axle nut out, push the axle back, pop that dust cover off, and then we should be good to go again. And that should get us in a good spot, and that should be enough to get us to where we're back on straightening everything up, and I can start working on the front end and see how far we can get there. Besides that, I still have to finish up the steering. I want to mess with that a little bit tonight, and tomorrow is going to be a pretty full episode of starting to tie stuff back together. I think tomorrow, if I can knock out the steering and I can get that on, tomorrow I'd like to pull it out of the garage. Whether or not that'll happen or not, I don't know, but I don't see any reason why not. If I can get this unbound, there's nothing holding it back. I do need to go through and tighten everything down in the front and tighten everything down in the back and make sure there's no loose bolts, there's nothing missing. But besides that, I don't think there's anything that's going to hold it from actually pulling itself out and back in. Let's go ahead and get work on the side, make sure we can get that unbound and make sure it'll spin just fine. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started on that. So what appears to be happening is this brake caliper, when the bolts on they hold the caliper to the knuckle are tightened down, this part of the caliper actually comes in contact with the brake, making it so you can't turn it almost hardly at all. Yeah, but when you take that caliper off the knuckle, it looks like if I put a washer in between the knuckle and the caliper, it may space it off enough to where it's not making contact. I don't know why that's making contact. Maybe there was a washer there before on the other ones, or I don't know. But I'm going to run a washer and try that out, because for some reason that's making contact on this side. I put a few mil thick washer in between the caliper and the knuckle, and it's completely free now. Like before, it was like metal on metal, wouldn't even move, as you can see right before I did that. And I've got the bolt snug down the back, and it's still spinning very freely, so I don't know why. Maybe it's just the knuckle, I don't know. It's hard to tell. There may have been a spacer there before, and maybe sometimes it needs a spacer, but for some reason it just wasn't jiving together. So I'm going to put this brake caliper back together and bolt it back up and make sure we're good and free. Sorry, I make sure we're getting free. Alrighty, everything's torqued back down. Get the axle nut down, calipers bolted back on, the pads are back in, the castle nut on the ball joints on. Everything's good and tight, and now we have movement. So that was it. I went ahead and took the dust shield off anyway because I thought that was it, and it wasn't quite sitting in there quite well, and I wasn't super happy with the way it was fitting. So I'm going to run it without the dust cap on. The thing is when you do a B series swap with an EF anyway, you don't run with dust caps. I don't think it'll be a big deal, and if it does end up destroying a wheel bearing or making one fail prematurely, I'll know why, and I'll be able to take care of it. I can do wheel bearings now pretty easily, now that I can have a handle on how to do them with the wagon. That's not a big deal, so I'm not scared of it, not too worried about it. I'm going to run it without it for now. So if you can see there, the extension is on the rack, it's threaded on there, but I'm having a hard time getting it on the steering wheel and that at the same time. So I'm going to have to pop it back off and put it on the steering wheel first, and then try to get it on the rack. But I have a hard time getting seated on both at the same time. So I think I know what I need to do for tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and pull it back off and slide it up the shaft, up the steering wheel, then guide it down to the rack to get it and put it into the rack. And then we'll go from there and see if I can't get that straightened out, because that's the only thing standing in between me and being able to drive this thing out of here now. I've got everything else taken care of. Like I said, I need to go ahead and make sure run through all the bolts and torque them all down. But it should be ready to go on out as soon as I get that steering stuff taken care of. Well, that's going to be it for tonight, guys. Short episode again. But again, I got home kind of late. Had to take care of some stuff in town while it was Black Friday and get some sales stuff taken care of. We had a few Christmas things taken care of. So, 1 week to the wedding. A little under a week now. It'll be next Friday at 4, and I plan on doing a whole vlog for the whole wedding, so be looking forward to that. It's going to be pretty fun and pretty exciting. And like I said, after the wedding, I'm going to take a little break from YouTube, probably take a week or two off, just to relax, enjoy our time, and get ready to set up the family and enjoy married life. So that's where we're going to be at this weekend. There shouldn't be any reason why I can't drive that thing this weekend, at least back and forth out of the driveway. See where we're at, see if there's anything binding up or anything that needs to be addressed. Besides that, I want to work on the viscous coupler pretty close next. I need to get that fixed. I need to refill it with new fluid and get that rebuilt. I got a few things in mind. I know I talked a while back about doing a viscous coupler lockout, and I have been doing some really deep research on that, and I don't know if I'll be doing a lockout necessarily or maybe something a little different. But either way, it'll be interesting, because doing the math and doing the research on the rear end of the wagon and the way it's designed, a lockout from front to back would be good for if you're in a pinch, if you're in a really tough technical place or you're stuck in the wagon. But if you run it prolonged for any amount of time fully locked, you're going to tear up something. The U-joints, the rear end, something's going to not be happy about that, because the rear is designed not to turn as fast as the front. And that was how it was designed from the factory, and that's why it has a viscous coupler in the first place. So a true locked all four wheels on the wagon platform, it's doable, but it's not sustainable. I don't feel comfortable with where my ratios came up with and what we're looking at for the actual wagon. So I have a few things in mind. I'll bring them up as they come to light. I have a few things I need to go to the junkyard and look at and test, and I'll be able to bring home the research and bring it back to you guys. But whatever I do end up going with the wagon, it'll be a much more robust off-road rig, and that's the end goal with it. Is I want to make sure that it's very, very capable off-road and on trails, that if it gets a wheel up in the air, that it'll still go forward, that it just won't spin that wheel freely like an open diff. I think we got some ideas. I'll lay those out in the channel a little bit later, but I want to make sure that I have all the math in my head correct and on paper correct before I go and start spouting it out to the internet and saying this is what you need to do, because I don't know for sure until I actually get my hands on some of these parts. So I'll be keeping you guys up to date on that, working with Ben a little bit on that as well. So be looking forward to that, and stay tuned for some more of that information, because it's going to be exciting, guys. This is my goal for the wagon, is to be a legitimate off-road rig. And what I'd really like to do is my pipe dream goal for the wagon is for it to be able to do everything a stock Rubicon Jeep would do. Which, you know, the Rubicon is the off-road version of the Jeep that really is supposed to do tons of stuff and go on the Rubicon Trail and all this other stuff. That won't be quite that, but I want it to be pretty close. Like, I want it to be able to do some crazy stuff that you wouldn't think a wagon would ever be able to do. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.